Walk with me. So I have two words for you. Momento Mori. Momento Mori. Say it with me. Momento Mori. Have you heard the words? Know what they mean? Drop me some feedback in the comments if you've heard it before and what you think those words mean. Momento Mori. Remember that one day I will die. One day I will die. One day I will die. If you've heard the words, or it sounds familiar, you're probably heard at one point in time or studied the ancient Stoics. I've always been a big fan of Stoic philosophy. I know today somehow that word Stoic has kind of transformed over time from the original meaning and what it was to somehow today it's morphed into an impression of someone who's quote unquote stoic means emotionless. Some people interpret it as, cold, not expressing feeling. When we use the term, they're very stoic. And I'm not sure how through time it turned into that, because the original meaning behind Stoics was quite the opposite. Matter of fact, Stoics as a philosophy back in ancient times were people that had deep understanding of their emotion and what emotion could do to take control over our own faculties, to interrupt our decision process, to infect or affect outcomes in life. So the philosophy was actually the opposite. It wasn't about suppressing emotion or being cold or emotionless. It was really about a heightened awareness or understanding of our own internal emotions and the effects it can have on our behaviors and therefore the outcomes in our life. And therefore a philosophy or simple principles to remind ourselves how to be in control at cause in our life. And so much of today's personal development, obviously I've been a big student of personal growth and development now for over 2 decades. I know many of you watching or listening right now are students as well. And it always surprises me how much of the foundation or core principles of today's personal growth, personal development arena really is rooted in Stoic philosophies, most of the time without giving any sort of credit to people like Seneca or Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius, and people that I've loved to study. And what's crazy to me is how they take complicated philosophies and distill it down into such simple principles to understand, and how timeless, literally timeless, how you can fast forward, hundreds of years and the principles are just as relevant. I'd even go out on a limb and say more relevant. Obviously, I didn't live back then, so I don't have the context, but so relevant to where we're at today. But the core of Stoic philosophy, one of the rooted principles, are those words. Momento Mori. A reminder to ourselves that we are mortal, that our time here is not forever, that we all end in the same place. One day, I will die. And I know when you first say that, and maybe hear me say that, maybe the first impression is, man, that's like negative. Like, you're usually about positive, right? That's kind of fear-based. And I disagree. I think at surface it can come across that way, but when you really understand the principle and how to apply it, it's not about fear. It's really about freedom. And I want to talk about that principle today with all of you, and how it can help in a time where fear is on demand. Everywhere we want to look, there are triggers to try to elicit a fear response in us today, probably more than ever in human history, my opinion. And how this principle can help keep us in check, give us peace of mind, help us navigate those triggers and shift from a fear to a freedom in how we choose to respond, and ultimately the life that we choose to live. So before we get into all of that, I'm going to ask, who's by my side today? Come on, don't be shy. Hiding behind screens. Say hello below, where you're from. How are you doing? Tell me one thing you're excited about right now. Come on, for real. Tell me one thing exciting going on in your life. Give me it in the comments below. If you're new to the crew, welcome. We walk together across the globe, usually weekly, usually on the same day, same time. Walk with me Wednesdays if you want to set the alarm. Live is always fun. Catch the replays here on my Facebook page, or some of the best past conversations. We've been doing it for a while now, just past a year on the podcast. Check it out, Alive by Design, on podcast platforms. Go subscribe, catch some past episodes, leave reviews on anything that empowers you. I appreciate that. And the only thing I ask of all of you, if you're new to the crew, is collaborate and participate. Don't be shy. If you have an opinion, share it. And I'm just getting to the top of the mountain here. A little fog layer down there covering Santa Monica. It's Malibu. What do you guys think of my backyard? I'm gonna sit on my little rock. And let's dive into this concept of Momento Mori. A reminder to ourselves that one day we're all gonna die. It's interesting. So this past week, I had someone that I was fairly close to, someone I worked with in business for a long time, pass away. And it was very eerie timing for me, because only a couple weeks before that, I'd been on a number of conference calls or Zooms with her personally, and she was sharing just how she was in a pivotal point in her life and how she wanted to make some changes, and she was excited. Like, she was genuinely enthusiastic and vibrant about turning a page, starting a new chapter, some big business ideas. And I was having conversations with her, kind of giving just some guidance and some mentorship on the direction. But there was definitely an energy to life, an enthusiasm about the future, a conviction about a direction, literally just a couple weeks ago. And then we got news that this individual ended up passing away in her sleep. Totally unexpected. At an age that's just far, 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 far too early. And I'm sure many of you can relate. Whenever you have somebody, even remotely close to you, that passes away, you can't help but start to reflect on our own mortality, right? And I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but, obviously whenever somebody passes, my compassion, my empathy, my sympathy always goes to them and the family that's closest, because obviously that's where it always hits the hardest. It's never easy, no matter who you are. And once compassion goes out, a mirror kind of comes back, and it's always a reminder of our own limited time. And it's an interesting conversation because it's one that we, at least in the American civilization, but I think most of the world today, we don't like to talk about, right? We don't like to face the fact that there's an end here. It's something that most people suppress, right? It's not a popular conversation topic. It's something that brings down the energy, right, or frequency in a room or in a conversation. And so often we kind of choose to block that out or try to ignore or forget that at the end of the day, we all are on the same timeline in terms of it's going to come to an end at some point. So often we hear stories of people that get news that they have some sort of illness or condition or some sort of circumstance that creates a short timeline, right? An end. And how often have we heard stories of people that found out they had X amount of time left on this planet and it radically changed their behavior, right? They instantly focused on the things that they felt mattered most to make the most of the time that they have. Like we hear this theme or this pattern a lot of times when we hear, stories of people that get some sort of terminal news. And we ignore the fact that the reality is maybe in those situations, there might be a known circumstance putting a guesstimated timeline. But at the end of the day, we're all in a very similar boat. We might not have a known circumstance today or a doctor or authority giving us a time window. But at the end of the day, we all end in the same place. We all have a terminal condition, right? We all have a timeline. And while we like to all think that timeline is far in the future, the truth of the matter is none of us really know, right? Every day is truly a gift. Every day is a blessing. So often we get reminders, right, in our social circles or family when dramatic things happen that create this heightened level of awareness, and all of a sudden it hits us in the face and we realize that for a moment, and then our patterns kick in, our suppression kicks in, we push that out, and we're back to daily routines, right? Days or weeks later. Who can relate, right? How many of us are guilty? And, so this concept of Momento Mori, this Stoic philosophy, this reminder that one day I will die, this awareness that we all have this timeline, is something that the Stoics would remind themselves daily, maybe more often than daily, maybe in every situation that they're in. Not something that would happen in sporadic moments, months or years apart, but a part of a daily belief system on how they chose to operate when it comes to life. And it's something I think we can all adopt, and I'll explain what I mean by creating freedom. In every aspect of our life, there might be times where things are going absolutely freaking amazing, like you are on a high, like you are on a victory sequence right now. You are crushing it. You are in a personal momentum. How many of you have been in seasons of life where it's like winning, winning, winning? And when you're in those situations, Momento Mori, a reminder that one day, right, I will die, instantly shifts a perspective and brings you back to your feet on the ground, and instantly creates that, right, that moment of celebration, right, is something to cherish there, but creates perspective in the big picture of what it really means and what really matters. Vice versa, we might be in seasons of life where we're on the other side of the coin. We might be in a struggle, right? We might be going through an obstacle or a challenge, right? We might be in the middle of a turmoil. We might be in a situation where it feels overwhelming. And again, Momento Mori, reminder that one day I will die, instantly shifts a perspective. You guys, what I think it does is it changes the vantage point of how we choose to look at ourselves in every situation. I'm a student of NLP, something I've always found fascinating. One of the core principles of NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, is learning how to look at different things from a different vantage point or perspective. So often we get stuck in situations where our vantage point is looking like we are in the center and our circumstance is all around us, right? It's almost all consuming or all encompassing. We are this small and our situation is this all immersive, right, sphere all around. And that's what produces a stress or an anxiety or an overwhelmed or a feeling like you're out of control. And in NLP, sometimes they say, well, shift your perspective from your current vantage point and instead zoom out, right? Zoom as far out as you can, as if you're as far away witnessing yourself as a third party in the situation that's around. And you guys shifting that vantage point, looking at it from a macro view, totally changes the feeling and often changes not only the perception, but the way you choose to handle that situation. The reason I give that analogy, that explanation, is to me those words, Momento Mori, instantly shift that perspective. They instantly take you from a feeling of right here in this moment and everything all around us to boom, one day I will die. A macro view. A big picture. An instant realization or internal question of, does this really matter? Does this really have the meaning that I'm choosing to give this right now? In the long run, right? 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime from now, will the situation you're in even be remembered, let alone warrant the amount of energy or emotion that you're allowing to hijack you right then and there? It shifts a perspective. It shifts a vantage point. Momento Mori, I think, also allows us to create clarity in the decisions that we allow ourselves to be in every single day. You know, if we're in a situation where we are just not enjoying what we're doing, right? If you're in a career or a job or work right now that you just hate being in, and you're still playing the, when then game, right? If then game, the, hey, when this happens, then I'll be happy, right? Someday this will change. Momento Mori instantly says, you don't know how many more days you have, and is it worth continuing to sacrifice, right? A place that you're unhappy, unfulfilled, right? Lack of purpose, lack of energy in a direction, and something you don't like. Or maybe you can relate to relationships that are around you. Maybe you're sitting there putting up with toxic relationships you know are not good for you long term. They are limiting, right, to you. Maybe they have a negative effect on you. And you know this, but you're saying and hoping and praying that one day it may change. Momento Mori creates that perspective. Is it really worth any more days when you don't know how many more days you have left? So it instantly creates a perspective to cut out, remove, minimize, eliminate, reduce, block, delete the things in our life that just are not worth it. Life is too short. How many times have we heard that? It also works on the flip side. Maybe, on the inverse, you have something you're doing right now that excites you. Maybe you have a career, a business, a venture, a side gig, a side hustle that fills your cup, that allows you to tap into purpose, that has a calling, has a flow. Maybe you're not putting the energy into that or the time into that you should. And maybe Momento Mori is a reminder that, hey, pursue the things that make you feel alive. Do the things that call you to do them. Do the things that ignite your passion and your purpose. Maybe you have people in your life right now that truly love and care about you, that lift you up. And maybe you're not giving the time or the energy to the people closest to you that are most important to you. Maybe you haven't called that person in a while and just had a conversation, right? Said, I appreciate you, said, I love you, say thank you, listen to them. Momento Mori, life is short. How many more days do you have left? You guys, it cuts both ways. It allows us to shift our perspective and reduce the things that don't serve us, and also allows us to create appreciation and gratitude for the circumstances and the people and the things around us that do fill us up, that do fill our cup. And ultimately, at the end of the day, right, the whole point is to make that shift, not just from being alive. It's not about just walking around, breathing air, moving our body. The whole point is not being alive. It's feeling alive, feeling ignited, feeling enthusiastic, feeling on purpose, right? Feeling like you're moving toward what you're meant to do, to who you're meant to be. And Momento Mori, that core philosophy, one day, a reminder, we're all mortal. One day, this all ends. One day, and we don't know when that day is. You will die. It's not about a fear. It's about a freedom. A freedom to say that it's okay to cut off from the things that are dragging us down and to invest in the things that are higher frequency, moving us up, moving us further, maximizing the time that we have. So my message to all of you today, 2 words, Momento Mori. Maybe a reminder that you tell yourself whenever you're in any situation, right? Allows us to keep from getting too high on our highs, low on our lows. Allows us to remind ourselves no matter how good or bad things are, they will change. Allows us to say, you know what, life's too short. Let me get rid of the things that are anchoring me down. Life's too short. Let me appreciate and be grateful for the things and invest the things and put energy and time and intention into the things that fill me up. Our body doesn't lie. It gives us these signs every single day, but we got to learn to align our feeling, our intuition with our brain, how we think, our mindset, and ultimately what we choose to do with the short time that we have on this planet, because none of us know how much more we have. So my question for all of you today is, hey, Momento Mori. What does that reminder mean to you? What decisions do you have to make? What things do you have to do less of? What things do you have to do more of? What people do you have to spend less time with? What people do you have to spend more time with? And how do we live every day, right? Really valuing what we have, knowing that it's the most precious thing we have, and none of us know just how many more are ahead of us. Hey guys, let me know if you got anything from today, if you got value from today. Give me some feedback in the comments below. I know there's probably some person that came to your mind or your heart in today's conversation. You're like, man, I really need to share this with that person. Feel free to tag them in the comments or press share on the feed. And again, catch past conversations on the podcast, right? New podcasts on all platforms every single Monday. Check them out, Alive by Design. Rates and reviews, welcome. And continue to join us live on Wednesdays. Hopefully you guys are walking and moving right together with us. I invite all of you to get outside, create some movement in. Maybe you're listening to your car, but let's keep the conversations going and hold each other accountable that at the end of the day, Momento Mori, right? One day we will die, and it's up to us to make the most of the time we have. Until the next time we walk together, take care, everyone.